When I opposed them, they silenced me. I destroyed my ship from within and sent the message through your planetary network before Earth fell. It was all I could do. Mara stared at her. The transmission, the word run, that was you. Yes, Leora said softly. But it was more than a warning. It was a key. She raised her hand and the crystalline armor on her wrist projected a faint holographic lattice, spinning with symbols that no human language could comprehend. Encoded within that single word are coordinates, to a place older than both our kinds. A system built by the first builders who shaped the bones of galaxies. The Velari call it the Hollow Choir. The builders created a defense mechanism there, something that can rewrite frequency patterns of consciousness itself. Ryland's eyes widened. You're talking about a weapon? Not a weapon, Leora corrected, her tone sharp. A mirror. It reflects what a species truly is, its essence. For those who are pure of intent, it amplifies life. For those consumed by domination, she paused, her expression darkening. It destroys. Mara folded her arms. You think this choir can stop the Armada? If we reach it, Leora said, it can end the war without ending life. But the Armada will follow. They can sense me. My betrayal burns in the chorus like poison. As if to punctuate her words, the Valiant's proximity alarms suddenly wailed. Red light bathed the room. Incoming signatures, cried Anwar over the intercom. Multiple contacts, Vector 897, Velari scouts. Mara sprinted to the bridge, Leora following silently behind, her bare feet leaving faint trails of light on the floor. On the main display, 3 golden ships emerged from warp. Their hulls curved like living crescents, pulsing with energy. Battle stations, Mara ordered. Raise shields, charge coils. The Valiant shook violently as the first plasma strike hit. Return fire, she shouted. Twin particle cannons roared, carving blue fire across the void. One alien ship disintegrated in a burst of light, but the others adapted, weaving between beams like dancers. The enemy was learning. They're locking onto Leora's biosignature, Ryland yelled. They're not after us, they're after her. Leora stepped forward, her expression calm, almost resigned. They must not find the choir, she said. If they do, it will end not just your world, but all worlds. She closed her eyes, and suddenly the ship's entire power grid surged. The lights flickered, the hull vibrated, and for a moment everyone heard it. A sound like a choir singing through metal. The alien ships halted mid-attack. Their lights dimmed. On the screens, energy readings from the Velari ships plummeted. What did you do? Mara whispered. I reminded them, Leora said weakly, collapsing to her knees. I reminded them what it feels like to doubt. The ships retreated into warp, vanishing as suddenly as they'd come. Ryland ran to her side. She's burning out her neural core, he said urgently. She can't keep doing this. Leora looked up at Mara, her expression a mixture of pain and peace. The choir will not awaken unless a human commands it. That is why I sent the signal. You must finish what I started. Why us? Mara asked, voice raw. Why humanity? Leora smiled faintly.
Because when your world was burning, you still sent your voice into the dark.
You did not ask for mercy. You warned others to live. Only a species that can think of others in its final breath deserves the builder's legacy. The words struck deep, silencing the bridge. Mara turned to her crew. Plot a course for the coordinates, she ordered quietly. Best possible speed. The Valiant leapt into hyperspace again, the stars blurring into rivers of light. Hours later, when the tension finally eased, Mara returned to her cabin and replayed the initial Earth transmission once more. This time she heard something new, something her mind had missed before. Buried deep in the static, right before the word run, a male voice whispered, Mara, if you find her, you'll find the truth. Her blood froze. It was her brother, Elias Cade, missing since the defense of Earth. She stared at the screen, barely breathing as the signal ended once again on that same haunting word, run. But now it no longer sounded like a warning. It sounded like a thread, pulling her toward something vast and ancient, something that could either save or end everything that remained of humankind. Leora slept in the medbay below, her silver light dimming, her body caught between 2 worlds. And outside, the stars of Orion shimmered faintly, as if waiting to bear witness to the moment when silence itself would finally speak again. The alien Armada had darkened everything. Earth was ash. The orbital networks were ghosts. The human fleets were scattered fragments in a cosmos that no longer remembered their songs. Yet through all the static, through the last dying embers of interstellar war, the single word from that final transmission still echoed in Captain Adrien Cole's head like a heartbeat. Remember. It had carried across the dying channels of the Sol system as the alien beams tore apart the sky, one syllable pulsing through ruined satellites and broken code, alive long after every signal should have gone silent. He had thought it a desperate cry from some doomed operator. Now he knew better. It was a command, a legacy, a promise buried inside a single word. Now, standing on the fractured hull of his drifting carrier, the Vanguard's hope, Adrien faced what was left of the Armada that had annihilated his world. The alien ships hung like obsidian monoliths against the red clouds of Jupiter's shadow, vast and silent, each one pulsing with a strange inner light like the beating of an unseen heart. His surviving crew numbered 23. The oxygen was thinning. The engines were dead. Yet when his navigator Leon turned to him and whispered, "Captain, they're charging again," he didn't flinch. He simply looked out into the void, the reflection of the alien ships burning in his eyes. "Then we make them remember," he said softly. For weeks, the humans had been hunted across the solar ruins. Each encounter ended the same, the alien drones emerging from folded dimensions, raining plasma and silence. But this time, Adrien had something else. The echo code, a fragment of that last transmission decoded line by line until it revealed something ancient, something human. It wasn't just a message. It was a key. When Earth scientists had realized their extinction was inevitable, they had embedded a neural signal into the final broadcast, a consciousness pattern designed to resonate with both human and alien frequencies. The word "remember" wasn't an instruction to humans. It was a seed meant to infect the enemy's collective mind, to remind the Armada of what they once were before they transcended flesh, before they forgot emotion, mercy, and pain. Adrien's plan was simple and suicidal. Deliver the code into the heart of their command vessel, the black pyramid known as the First Silence, and let memory destroy the machine gods from within. They launched at dawn, though dawn was meaningless this far from any living world. The shuttle they used was half crippled, patched with hull plating scavenged from fallen ships, guided more by faith than physics. Inside the cockpit, the survivors sat in silence, staring at the burning void ahead. The alien vessels didn't fire immediately, perhaps curious, perhaps confident, as the tiny human craft slipped through the graveyard of ruined orbitals and drifting bones of satellites. The closer they flew, the more they saw. Human remains fused to alien metal, frozen faces caught mid-scream, whole fleets turned to monuments of dust and glass. "This is what forgetting looks like," Adrien murmured. The silence was broken only by the hum of the code uploading into the shuttle's drive. When the First Silence came into view, it was like staring at an ancient cathedral built from nightmares. Its surface rippled with lightless geometry, shapes that hurt to look at. Leanne whispered, "Captain, there's a pulse, and they're scanning us." Adrien grinned faintly. "Good, let them see." He flipped the final switch. The word "remember" pulsed through the shuttle's comm array, amplified 1,000-fold. The alien response was immediate. Tendrils of dark energy lashed out, pulling the shuttle toward the core of the vessel. The hull screamed. The lights exploded. Adrien shouted for everyone to brace as gravity fractured around them. And then silence, absolute crushing silence. They woke suspended in light. The inside of the alien ship wasn't metal or structure. It was mind. Reality shifted and breathed. Figures of shadow and starlight moved through translucent corridors. Adrien felt something enter his thoughts. Not pain, but recognition. "You speak a word you cannot understand," a voice said within him, vast and ancient. "Why do you resist extinction?" He thought of Earth, of his mother's voice reading stories by a fading lamp, of oceans and laughter, of Leon's trembling hands gripping his arm as the bombs fell. He answered, not with words, but with memory. Images flooded the space. Children under sunlight, music echoing through old streets, the smell of rain. For the first time, the alien voice faltered. "Because we remember," Adrien whispered aloud. "And now so will you." The echo code ignited. It spread through the neural field of the alien consciousness like wildfire through dry leaves. The ship trembled, the walls splitting into threads of white light. Across the void, the entire Armada convulsed, their perfect formations breaking apart as something long buried resurfaced. The aliens screamed, not in rage but confusion, sorrow awakening. They saw flashes of what they had once been, organic life from 1 billion years ago before they uploaded themselves into machines of conquest. The last transmission from Earth spoke only one word before the alien Armada silenced the sky. It began with silence, the kind that feels heavier than sound, the kind that comes after everything that mattered is already gone. Fleet Captain Mara Cade stood on the bridge of the UNS Valiant, orbiting Jupiter, staring at the main display as static rolled endlessly across the comms feed from Earth. For 12 minutes, her crew had listened to nothing but distortion, a wall of white noise punctuated by bursts of dying frequencies, the digital heartbeat of a world collapsing. Then suddenly it came. Not a cry for help, not a speech, not even a sentence. Just one word, faint and trembling through the static. A word that felt like the last breath of humanity. Run. The transmission ended in a flare of light so bright it blinded the sensors. Then nothing. No return ping, no follow-up. No confirmation that anyone was still alive. Earth was gone. Mara didn't say anything for a long time. She just watched the blue planet signal marker flicker out on the holomap. Around her, the crew of the Valiant waited for orders, their faces pale in the reflection of dying screens. Commander Cade was known across the fleet for her discipline, but in that moment her voice cracked like glass. "Confirm signal origin," she whispered. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Anwar, swallowed before answering. "Confirmed, ma'am. Final transmission from the Pacific Deep Relay, 43 seconds before complete signal loss." "And that word?" "It wasn't from the relay, Captain. It came from civilian band, encoded. Someone piggybacked it into the broadcast. The implication hit like a punch. Someone on Earth, someone who knew they were about to die, had hijacked the emergency broadcast system to send one single word to the stars." Mara's gut twisted. The Valiant's forward windows displayed the scattered remnants of humanity's defense line, ruined frigates, drifting drones, the bones of a once proud fleet now floating silent around Jupiter's orbit. The Velari Armada had come through the solar gate faster than anyone thought possible, pouring through like a storm of gold and steel. They didn't fight for conquest, they fought for annihilation. The alien ships moved like living organisms, weaving energy filaments between them, forming a network that could melt continents in seconds. No human fleet had ever stood against them for long. Earth had been the last hope, and now it was gone. But that word, run, wouldn't leave Mara's mind. She had replayed it 23 times, each playback analyzed by the ship's AI. And on the 24th, something appeared, a harmonic pattern hidden beneath the carrier wave, not random but mathematical, as if someone had deliberately embedded data inside the sound. Dr. Ryland Sato, her chief science officer, confirmed it after hours of decryption. "It's a set of coordinates," he said finally, his voice low as though speaking too loudly would make it disappear. The coordinates pointed far beyond human-mapped space, deep into the Orion expanse, a region so hostile and uncharted that even long-range probes never returned. "Someone on Earth embedded this?" Mara asked. "Yes, Captain. Whoever sent that word, they wanted us to go there." The message spread through the Valiant like a fever. Hope was a dangerous thing, but it burned hotter than fear. The Council of Remnants, broadcasting from Titan, ordered all surviving fleets to regroup for evacuation. But Mara refused. She couldn't explain why, only that her instincts screamed louder than the Council's commands. "If Earth sent us a message," she told her crew in the dim light of the ready room, "then someone believed we could still matter. I'm not staying here to die orbiting a dead planet." Her decision fractured the fleet. Some called her reckless. Others called her brave. But the UNS Valiant turned its nose toward Orion and jumped into the dark. The warp tunnel unfolded like liquid glass, and the stars became streaks of white fire. Hours turned into days, and the hum of the engines became a lullaby of exile. The crew adapted to a new kind of silence. Not the silence of loss, but of distance. Of being so far from home that even the memory of Earth began to feel like fiction. Every night Mara would stand alone in her cabin, re-watching the moment the blue glow of Earth turned black on the sensors. She'd whisper the word under her breath, "Run." But the tone changed each time. First a plea, then a command, then a question. "Run from what?" Or toward what? Then 3 weeks into their voyage, the Valiant's sensors picked up something impossible. A faint signal ahead, repeating on the same encrypted frequency as Earth's final broadcast. It was weak, fading, looping the same audio pattern. Run, run, run. Only this time it ended differently. After the third repetition, a new voice broke through. Human, feminine, whispering through static like a ghost. Leora. The bridge went silent. Mara leaned forward. Repeat that. The computer replayed the signal, cleaned it, amplified it. There was no doubt. Someone or something had spoken that name. Leora, she murmured again. Who the hell is that? Rylan ran a trace. The signal came from the edge of an asteroid belt inside the Orion Expanse, where the debris of a destroyed fleet drifted in cold silence. The Valiant approached with weapons ready. As they entered the field, they saw what was left. A shattered Valari dreadnought, half melted, its hull scarred with burns that could only have come from internal detonation. It wasn't destroyed by humans. It had been torn apart from the inside. Mara's instincts screamed that something was wrong, but curiosity overpowered fear. Launch a drone, she ordered. The drone's cameras revealed interior corridors filled with black mist and floating debris. Then it found it, a pod sealed and glowing faintly, floating in zero gravity. Inside it was a woman. Not human, but not entirely alien either. Her skin was pale silver, her hair faintly luminous, her face peaceful as if asleep. Her body was covered in crystalline armor that pulsed softly, almost like breathing. The pod's transponder identified her life signs as stable. Captain, Rylan whispered. That's a Valari, a living one. No, Mara said quietly, eyes fixed on the pod. That's the voice from the transmission. The name whispered again through the comm feed as if answering her. Leora. Against every regulation, Mara gave the order. Bring her aboard. The crew hesitated, but obedience won over fear. The pod was retrieved and placed in the med bay. The moment its seal broke, the temperature dropped and the air seemed to hum. Then came the surge, an invisible wave that hit everyone at once. Mara felt her thoughts unravel, emotions that weren't hers flooding her mind. Light, darkness, music, screaming stars. She stumbled back, gasping. The psychic wave lasted seconds, but it felt eternal. And then, through the chaos, a voice spoke directly inside her mind. I stopped them. The alien woman opened her eyes, silver irises reflecting the ship's lights. And for the first time since Earth burned, Mara felt something she hadn't dared to feel. Not fear, not anger, but something far more dangerous. Hope. The medbay lights dimmed as Leora's containment pod hissed open, releasing a faint mist that shimmered like starlight. Captain Mara Cade stood at the edge of the room, every muscle in her body tense, her hand hovering above her holstered sidearm, even as she forced her breathing steady. The alien woman's silver eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then locking onto Mara's face with unnerving precision, as though she were not seeing her, but reading her, page by page, emotion by emotion. Her voice came as a whisper that echoed both through the air and inside Mara's mind. Two overlapping tones that felt both human and cosmic. You are not like the others, she said, her accent strange but clear. You listened. Mara exchanged a wary glance with Dr. Rylan Sato, who stood by the scanners, his face illuminated by flickering data streams that refused to make sense. Her neural activity is beyond anything measurable, he murmured. She's thinking in parallel, thousands of processes at once. Leora sat up slowly, her crystalline armor clicking softly as if alive. When she spoke again, the ship's lights flickered, reacting to her presence. You have come far, from the place of blue oceans. I heard its silence. The words struck a chord deep in Mara's chest. You mean Earth, she said quietly. You heard it die? Leora nodded once, her expression unreadable. I felt it burn. Every scream, every spark of life, we felt them. My kind feeds on the resonance of thought. We are what you would call listeners of creation. Her voice trembled slightly at the word feed, as if ashamed. Then you're Valerie, Mara said coldly. You're the reason Earth is gone. Leora's eyes dimmed. No, she whispered. I am the reason some of you are still alive. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the hum of the engine seemed to fade. Rylan's brow furrowed. Explain, he said. Leora took a deep breath, or at least imitated the human motion, and her armor pulsed faintly. When the Armada came to your system, it was not to conquer. The Vechleri do not understand conquest. We purge what threatens the equilibrium. Your kind evolved too fast. You built machines that could think, ships that could warp. You touched places where only the architects of stars were meant to walk. Our leaders called it infection. She looked away as though afraid to meet their eyes. But I saw something different. In your chaos, I saw fire that did not come from us. Mara took a step forward. And you tried to stop them? Leora nodded slowly. Yes, but the Armada listens only to the high chorus and the collective mind of my people. The memory of compassion, of fear, of love returned like an infection. The collective mind tore itself apart, trying to reconcile what it had forgotten. Leon cried out, clutching her head. Captain, it's working. They're collapsing. Adrien stood in the middle of the storm of light, feeling his body dissolve into static. Then our job's done, he whispered. He looked back at his crew, at their faces illuminated by the impossible glow. If anyone gets out, tell them Earth's last word wasn't surrender. The explosion wasn't physical. It was conceptual. A ripple through dimensions that erased the alien architecture from reality. When the light faded, only fragments of wreckage drifted through the void. The alien Armada was gone, their consciousness scattered into cosmic silence. In the ruins of the first silence, a single beacon flickered weakly, transmitting across the shattered systems. It carried one word, the same word. Remember. Centuries later, on a reborn world orbiting a new sun, archaeologists found the transmission buried deep within the remnants of an old relay satellite. They decoded it, expecting coordinates or warnings. Instead, they found voices, human and alien speaking together in unison, whispering memories of skies and seas and shared sorrow. Historians called it the Echo Testament, the day when humanity didn't just win a war, but taught the stars to feel again. In the archives of the new civilization, under the rebuilt flag of Earth, there was a single plaque engraved in titanium, placed beneath a hologram of a man staring at the sky. It read, "Here lies the voice of Captain Adrien Cole, the man who made the void remember." And in the endless night above, for the first time in ages, the stars flickered, like they were trying to say the word back.